My Mac died, so I bought a Windows. So, those who don't jump will never fly, or how I learned to stop worrying and love the WordPress community. This is where I live, in the Netherlands. It really is as cliché as it looks. Leidschendam, it's near The Hague, it's a little pretty city. What I do is front and back end development. I build accessible websites, and I chose WordPress and the Genesis framework. How many of you use the Genesis framework here? Oh, that's sure. Okay. Well, this talk isn't just about the Genesis framework, but it's actually about all your work, what you do for WordPress. This is the biggest site I built. It's the Oververeniging. It translates as I Company of I Association. It's the largest association in the Netherlands. And it represents the rights of all people with eye impairment or are deaf, blind, or have eye diseases. It's a very large association, and the website is run by 30 content managements, and they all have eye diseases. So that's quite a challenge. That's also for the admin from WordPress. It has lots of accessibility issues, and they have to deal with that. It's quite a big support job. I built this team in Genesis, and during development of the site, I found a lot of accessibility problems in the Genesis framework. One of them, no semantic heading structures. It will be a bit of a coding talk. So if you don't get it, sorry for my English, if you don't all get it, get a bigger picture of the result. There are no semantic heading structure. So it means a heading structure. Every page should have an H1, a unique H1 that defines the page, or the archive, or the author archive, or the sitemap. Every page has to have one unique H1. In Genesis framework, all the widgets on the side or on the bottom are H4 as a heading. So you can jump from an H1 to an H4. Then the outline of the whole document gets mixed up. People who use a screen reader can see how the page is made up, what everything means. This is a problem. In the latest version of Genesis, they dropped all the IDs. All the HTML elements don't have an ID anymore, and only a class. That's even worse for forms. Forms have to have a label and an input field. They are linked together, and they're linked together with an ID. If you strip the ID, someone with a screen reader don't know what label, what an input field is labeled, what an input field means. Then, no keyword accessibility for the drop-down menu. I think that's pretty bad. If you tap through a page, someone who only uses a keyboard has to tap through the page to all the different links. If you go to the main menu, and you tap through the links, the drop-down menu doesn't show up. So you can tap, nothing happens, and you tap, oh, you need those further. So the CSS isn't right, and the drop-down menu doesn't drop down, so someone can't see where he is in the menu. Title attribute is added with links. This is also a WordPress issue. The title attribute with a link has no meaning at all. It messes up screen readers. Screen readers don't know what to do with it. And also, when you use a tablet, a title attribute doesn't have any meaning because there's no mover with a tablet. So I always strip the title attribute off. And there are no unique read more links. That's also a problem with WordPress. Graphic designers love that. You have all those read more links. There are people of size, very neat. But when someone in a screen reader, he can get read out all the links. He almost always, sorry for this. He just gets read out, read more, read more, read more, read more. He doesn't know what the link is about, so he can't understand what the page is about. So, these issues I ignited and I emailed, I placed tickets, I posted on fora. Please change this. When I addressed the heading structure, that it's not semantically, that there are skipping levels in the headings, they said, a leading SEO expert said, this is the best for SEO. Okay, this accessibility doesn't matter, SEO is really important. Now, who am I to discuss that? I think the one who said that is also from the Netherlands and a leading SEO expert, so I won't argue with that. Okay, drop-down menus. Don't use them then. That's an argument. This was not said to me, but someone in the forum. And the most important one, thank you for your feedback. I will pass this request along to our development team for consideration. Okay, this was not only a Genesis answer, but it was also a gravity formed answer. So, don't call us. That made me very, very pissed. I can say that. I was really, really angry. What can I do? All these people with disabilities, nobody actually cared. I was trying my best, making themes, really getting effort in it, and nobody really cared. What could I do? Then I thought, well, telling a developer you're doing it wrong, fix it, don't work. Actually, when I thought further, they haven't got a clue how to fix it, why it's important. Why? They never encountered someone with disability in their lives most of the time, so how could they know what's important? When I went to the airport with Bram, Bram is blind, there was an officer who wanted to search him, and he said to him, do this. And then he was very surprised that Bram didn't react, and all his colleagues behind him were laughing. But people don't realize what's the mean to be blind or to not use a keyboard. They have never encountered it, so it was very understandable that people say, well, it's not important, don't call us, we'll call you. Okay, this is me as a coder. I'm really, really shy. Hiding behind the box. Please don't show my code to anyone. Oh my God, maybe not good enough. Someone would say, that code? No, really, you shouldn't do that that way. But I should, because I have to tell people how it is done. I talked a lot of people with a lot of developers in WordPress, in WordCamps. It's the same as the last talk. WordCamps are very, very important. You talk to the developer, you share. Oh, you know that guy? And this is Mason. This is the accessibility table at WordCamp. Here we actually start working on the accessibility, and Mason was all for it. I think that's progress. And how on earth could I be afraid of these lot? These are the WordCamp Netherlands organizers. This is Bas, Charlotte, Rempjes de Vries, and Michael Boosman. These are the nicest people ever. How could I ever be angry at them? Because they had no idea. So what I did was talk, explain, share. And then suddenly people opened up. Said, okay, that's a good idea. Oh, I didn't know that. And finally something got moving. And I realized WordPress coders are people too. Really. So, I gathered all my cards together and I jumped. And I made two things. A child theme for Genesis and a plugin. I split both, I'll explain that later. The Leiden theme was to fix all the CSS problems, like the color contrast. The accessible, Genesis accessible, the plugin fixes the rest, all the accessibility problems. Why I split it, you can use the Genesis accessible plugin with any theme you like, any Genesis theme you like. But most of the time you make your own theme with your own colors, so you have no use for the theme. But two together make an accessible theme out of the box. So if you don't know code and just need an accessible website, you install the Genesis, the theme and the plugin, and you've got an accessible website out of the box. I'm not responsible for the content you put in after that. What it does when you install the theme, you've got an extra menu item with Genesis, that's accessibility settings. And here you can check all the accessibility settings you want, like remove title attributes, add skip links, add CSS for the skip links, or you can leave it out and make your own CSS, add semantic heading structure, add keyboard accessibility to the drop-down menu if you have a drop-down menu. So the tech stuff now. What I did with the theme, I made a color contrast ratio at 4.5. That's the contrast to the background and the text. It must be 4.5. There are websites, there are tools where you can calculate if that's 4.5. That's not only good for people who don't see well, but it's also good when you have a tablet and you read it in sun. Now, Genesis have a tendency for having a design in grey, on grey, on grey. You can't really see that when it's in the sun, or if you have bad eyesight. Well, one remark for the fact is that please, for the colors, on your own custom theme, check contrast. Furthermore, one H1 to rule them all. One H1. The plugin adds an H1 on archives. Standard in the standard Genesis, there are no H1s for archives, only H2s. The plugin adds an H2 for primary navigation and changes the widget heading from an H4 to an H2. This may change in the future. There are some arguments. Maybe we have a sidebar H2 and then the widgets H3 to have a compromise for the SEO expert from the Netherlands. I try to use as much Genesis code as possible, use filters, as much own filters, use the native code from Genesis. I hope then it will be forward compatible and easier to maintain, and also light. The drop-down menu I fixed, and actually it's so easy. It's a few lines of CSS, a few lines of JavaScript. It used to work in former versions of Genesis. They all stripped out the JavaScript, so the menu doesn't work anymore. This is why you don't. So the plugin you don't have to write as actually read it. But this is the JavaScript and this is the CSS. That's all. And then it works. So why don't add it? Okay, skip links. Anyone knows does not know what a skip link is? Everyone? Okay. I add skip links, and in the Genesis framework you have different sorts of layouts. Sidebar, content, content, sidebar, 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 content, etc. The plugin reads what layout is and adds IDs to the places where you want to go, to want to skip. It also has a Chrome fix, because Chrome doesn't do skip links very well. And it looks like this. Yeah, it's on there. It's a bit, not a bit clear maybe, but this is the screen. And it's on the left top of the screen, and this is in Dutch. And you can, it says where you want to jump to, and if you want to jump to, you enter a term and you jump to that part of the page, the footer or whatever you like. This is Tree from David Kennedy. He's also the maker of WordPress accessible thing. I'm going to write a song, maybe a hard-hitting rocker called Placeholders Are Not Labels. Please, don't rely only on placeholders. Also add a label. Genesis has its own widget, own search widget, which has no label. Because they all strip the IDs, they also strip the label. Okay, that's all useless. You have a placeholder, that's enough. Well, it's not enough for screen reader. So I added a label with an ID on the input. If you have two different widgets, well, a search widget on the top and on the bottom, you have a duplicate ID, and that doesn't validate. So what I did, I added to the ID a random number, and random unique number, and added that also to the input field. If you have another widget, that will be another number. And the class is screen reader text, so the label hides from the screen, but it will be read out from screen reader. So there's no difference in functionality, no difference in how the look and feel is, but it actually works on screen reader. And I think label and input field together is just good programming practice. Now that was about what I changed. It's available at, well, the plugin is available at the beginning directory from WordPress. The theme can't, because it's a child theme of a paid framework. And then you can post your theme in the theme directory from WordPress. So it's available at the GitHub, but I also have a supporting website with documentation about that, and you can download it from there too. Okay, what was the response? Questions and suggestions. Questions for adjustments, demands for adjustments, requests for language translations from Israel, for example. But also, Genesis woke up, to my surprise, and that's also range work, and also, I think, a sign of the times, because accessibility is getting more and more in focus. And more developers ask me, Genesis developers, is this theme really, or framework really accessible? And we even have a hashtag at the moment. Robert Noya made a hashtag, Genesis accessible. There's really debate among the Genesis developers about accessibility. So, unicorns and rainbows. Not really. Okay. How to find time? This is all voluntary. We all do this in our spare time, and I have a family to provide during also. So, how to find time for auditing Genesis updates, questions from developers, discussions on the repository. I don't have time for all that stuff. Theme questions. Genesis developers asking questions like, I made a theme, can you look at it? Is it accessible? And I like to blog much more, educate other people how. But this is still a problem, like the flu stroke when I have no time to sleep. Well, this is really something I have to do when I sleep now. But overall, I think I've got a new focus in my work, because Genesis and accessible is now in focus. I think I've got a lot more work out of that. And accessibility is on the agenda. And the lesson I learned is I learned to stop worrying and love the WordPress community. Because everyone, when you talk to them, when you show your work and you explain what's important, they all open up and they all want to contribute. I think that's very helpful. And then I want to have a statement. Moreover, I consider that Matt must invest in accessibility. Do you have any questions?
You said to remove the title from links, yeah. But obviously most of the time all the developers add read more for the posts in the home page. So I usually add the title with read more about this topic or about this, or the title of the post itself. So how do you solve it? Because most of the time you need something to click on.
Well, it only works on your desktop when you have broken mouse and you see the title attribute pop up.
Yeah.
Okay, what I mostly do is read more, and then I have a span with the page title, and the span has a class screen reader only. So the span is hidden, but it is read out loud. for the screen reader use.
Okay.
That's what I do.
So you display none some
Now,
text.
if display none is not good practice, but you have to. When you go to Export 2014, they have a class screen reader text, and it hides the position.
Overflow even.
Yeah, the height level.
The best way to do it, sorry.
Display none doesn't read for screen reader. So
The best way to do it is to use position absolute and left -9999 pixels. And it moves it. It's still effectively visible for screen readers, but it's moved way off the screen.
We usually use overflow hidden and then text indent less.
Yeah, that's another option.
Yeah.
Yeah. But display none will hide it from screen readers as well.
yeah, so that's useless. Yeah.
Right.
It's just a span with the class to hide the text.
So anyway, the title is
No, because screen readers don't really handle them well.
Okay.
So you maybe that's extra service for the screen readers, but actually
So read more about something will be in the span.
yeah.
Just for text
Read more, and then I have in the class lyrics runs about, and then the page title.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is great for me because I'm an accessibility consultant, and I just thought I should tell you all that if you design a website for a client and it isn't accessible, both you and the client are legally liable. It would be the same as saying, sorry mate, you can't come in here because you're in a wheelchair. Legally, all websites should be accessible. They aren't, and so many aren't, that it means that people that are disabled can't sue the internet. But that doesn't
What
mean...
you say with this talk is I don't want to shout at people.
Oh, that's all right. I'm here. I'm in a wheelchair. I'll shower. You know, I'm one of it. That's my job. You do the softly. I'll do the shouty.
That's because I'm really optimistic about what's going at the moment.
You be the carrot. I'll be the stick.
Encourage.
That's just his normal speaking voice. He's not actually shouting, that's just how he...
Oh, no, if I shout, I'll blow you off stage.
What's the legal ramification?
Any other questions?
Well, someone's a question from over there. Was it you, sir?
Yeah. What's the legal ramifications?
Well, you're breaking the Equality Act's goods and services because you're not providing an accessible service.
What could happen?
You could be taken to court. You could be forced to redesign the website. The client could be fined. You could be fined because the client could then sue you for not providing a proper service. Unless you've written into your contract, it's your fault if you don't make it accessible. And that's always a tip to all designers. Always put a clause in your contract saying, it's not my fault, it's your fault because you didn't ask me for it. And I shouldn't be telling you all that.
There's not a lot of legal case law on that one, but there was a case from 2012 where BMI Baby, and those of you who've seen my presentation will remember this, BMI Baby, the airline, actually did get, there was a legal case against them that was raised by the RNIB, the Royal National Institute for the Blind, and the RNIB had been trying to persuade BMI Baby for some time to actually change their website because you couldn't book flights or reserve seats or whatever without using a mouse. And BMI Baby just effectively ignored what RNIB was saying, and eventually the RNIB raised the action, and of course when it became public then BMI Baby had a sort of rather embarrassing climb down on that.
Legally as well, things have changed since the Equality Act from when it was a DDA, in that now, instead of it just being a legal action against a disabled person, it's also a legal action against anyone a disabled person knows, anyone he talks about, and also every time he goes to the website, it's a new legal action. So if he could actually spend his life suing one website and live off it very nicely, until you change it, you're legally liable every day.
You would do that.
I wouldn't do that, but I advise many other people to do that.
We find it's quite useful to talk about the business benefits of accessibility, rather than necessarily making a stick about or anything like that.
That's why there's so few actually disabled accessible.
The business side of the accessibility is that when I started to use accessibility for my own WordPress, I got more SEO more
Ranking.
ranking. Thank you.
Yeah, you do.
So
it's
accessibility
good
is
for
anyway.
everybody.
Yeah, well, I think everything is, what's good for accessibility is also good for SEO, because Google's blind and deaf.
Yeah.
So Google can make sense of it, blind people too.
Google is blind anyway.
Yeah,
He has to read and he has to understand from your, just from the code and not just from.
that's why I think the heading structure is important. You tell with the headings
It's a
what the
bit of a
organization of
mantra
your page is
really
like.
amongst the
What the
SEO.
page, you're telling the structure of your page with the headings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's important.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.